pull me up a chair here. Last night I got to reading a work by the German philosopher Ludwig Klages. He's an interesting figure. He is highly renowned in German philosophy, yet a lot of what he has written was not translated to other languages, and his popularity is rather diminished in other parts of Europe and the world. But I've been reading about his life the last couple of weeks, and I wouldn't say that he's entirely one of our guys, but he does have some rather interesting things to say. Last night I read an essay, or it might have been a speech of his. I believe it was given back in 1913. It was called Man and Earth. Man and Earth. Here soon I might do a stream where I read this essay to you. It's really interesting, and he brings up some interesting points. Some people would say that he has more of a pagan worldview. He was an environmentalist. He was anti-Christian. He did not like what he's seen that the Industrial Revolution had wrought upon the world. But in that essay, that speech, he brought up a concept that, until last night, I had never heard of. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm well read in philosophy and all these things, because I certainly am no such thing. But he brought up the concept of Kalokagathia. Kalokagathia. Kalokagathia is a Greek concept. I believe Herodotus was the first to comment on it. I believe it's considered a Platonic teaching. And to put it simply, Kalokagathia is derived from the Greek adjectives kalos, meaning beautiful, kalos kai kagathia, kagathia being good. This concept is spoken about by several of the Greek philosophers. I believe Aristotle spoke about it, Xenophon, several others. And what it is this sort of concept of what is beautiful and what is good. It can be equated to a sort of aristocracy. And we're all well and aware of the beautiful art and architecture that came from the Hellenic period in ancient Greece. The many statues, sculptures. They had an appreciation for the aesthetic. And during the Renaissance, there was a sort of revival in the appreciation of this aesthetic. As we're all well and aware, the beautiful sculptures of people and paintings of people like Michelangelo and Leonardo and many others. Kalokagathia, I should say. We can apply this in our own sort of lives, I believe. How many times have you, maybe some of you young men, such as myself when I was a younger man, did you ever date a girl that was really pretty, beautiful, but quite toxic? This is an example of the kalos without the kagathia. You got to find both, and we should aspire to be both. In this video, I made a few months ago. I called it A New Nobility. I'll just put a link to it at the end of this video. I talked about how we need a new sort of aristocracy. Nowadays, we're all very well and aware what is considered the current aristocracy in this modern paradigm and this, I've often said that our biggest enemies is probably the white elites, the Anglo elites, at least here in this country in the United States. And I still stand by that, because they are traitors. While they may be elite, and while they may consider themselves a sort of aristocracy, they display a total contempt of what we could call a sort of noblesse oblige. And the philosophers in ancient Greece spoke of this. They spoke about how the aristocracy was, to truly display the virtues of Kalokagathia, they used their own natural attributes to elevate the citizens that were around them and those who followed them. Our current rulers, those who control our minds, pocketbooks, lives, you could say, have the utmost contempt for the concept of noblesse oblige. And I'm certain many of them have never heard of the concept of Kalokagathia. Over time, especially over this past year, I have felt myself shifting in opinion into a more sort of elitist mindset. Used to, I viewed elitism as a sort of crutch. I used to think we were not at the stage where we could be elitists. I also used to want to see, and I still believe this, I want to see the white working class in this country and elsewhere elevate itself. Because the white working class has had so few people advocate for it. This is one of the reasons I've always loved Tom Metzger. The white working class truly has nobody. I was raised in a white working class family. White working class rural Appalachia. And I still want to see a sort of white working class revolution in which we seize our own sovereignty and control our own destiny instead of being at the mercy of all these rulers who spit upon us, who enslave us, and who just use us, poison us, all these things. I still want to see this, an organic sort of uprising. But in that video, A New Nobility, I brought in the idea that there was a book written, I believe it was several years ago, it was called The Populist Delusion, which says that throughout history, that there was any sort of successful revolution had the backing of a sort of counter-elite. And begrudgingly, even though at first I rejected this idea, that was my initial response, over time, I've come to see that as factual. But where do we start? We really have no people advocating for us. I know in the news currently, everybody is talking about Elon Musk and some of his comments that he has made. Some people are saying that perhaps he is indeed our guy. Myself, I'm hesitant. I'm very reluctant to throw that sort of label around loosely. While it's good to see some of the things that he has said, I still have my reservations. I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon just yet. But what I will say is that these things are positive to see. A lot of our talking points, especially from people who create content and that have much larger followings than I do, you know, some of our talking points have really became mainstreamed, you could say, over the last few months, especially with the conflict we see over in the Middle East. They've become more popular. Although I still am somewhat hesitant. There's a difference between being optimistic and hesitant. I'm just going to say it's cautious optimism. That's kind of the attitude, that's what I should say. That's the kind of attitude I have at the moment, is a cautious, maybe sort of optimism. Hesitant, but it is good that our ideas are being mainstreamed, I believe. To what ends will this make a difference? That is to be determined. But you know, what I would like to see is the white working class, as I said a few minutes ago, elevate itself to form a sort of new aristocracy. All of us, I believe, can do this. You know, this is one of the reasons why I've always had an admiration for the active clubs. As far as like a public-facing group, they are the ones, really about the only ones that I truly admire. Because they are rooted in the concept of self-improvement. And no matter where you are in life, you can always improve upon yourself. Never forget that. If you ain't growing, you're dying. And you know, as I mentioned earlier, I became a little more elitist. Because I view it that this little spider on my shoulder. Anyways, we have to have a counter-elite to have a successful revolution. And I do not know, and I do not believe that we currently have people in positions of extreme power that advocate for us, that don't have some sort of potential ulterior motives. Maybe I will be proven wrong. If I am proven wrong, I would be grateful. I would be excited. I would be ecstatic. Because in the end, I don't really care if I'm right or wrong. I would rather win. I want our people to win and to regain a sense of sovereignty and control of our own destinies. We can always be improving ourselves. The combination of beauty and goodness. Beauty and goodness will draw other people in. You want to lead by example. And you know, I hate to keep bringing up my own personal experience in these videos. I truly do, because I'm sure many of you probably don't want to hear about that, or you've heard about it enough already. But I look at myself, I have a much different view of myself than I did, say, 5 years ago. 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I mentioned before, I went through a period I call the years of meth. I've always been a fan of the years of lead in Italy. And the years of meth is just a play upon that blood-soaked period in Italy's history. But if you would have seen me 5 years ago, you most likely would not recognize me. The other day, I found a few pictures that my wife had taken. She didn't take many pictures. I didn't have many pictures taken of me during those years because, I'll just be honest with you, I looked like shit. Back then, I weighed about 130 pounds. My face was hollowed out. You know, eyes sunken in. I looked extremely rough. You wouldn't have recognized me when I moved down here. When I moved from northeast corner of Tennessee down here to southeast Tennessee, you would not have recognized me. I sent one of my friends one of those pictures and was like, this is how I used to look. He was like, damn. Nowadays, I weigh about 181 pounds is what I weighed in at this morning. I have gained nearly 50 pounds. I have done this through a very strict workout regimen. I'm never going to be a bodybuilder. I'm never going to be huge like that. But I am a lot stronger than I ever was. And I'm grateful for that. I watch my diet. I consume a lot of raw milk and raw honey. Eat a lot of meat. But I also eat vegetables as well. And carbs. I'm not one of these people that advocates for a strict diet of one sort or another. Uh-oh, here's a black lab. What are you doing, bud? What are you doing? What are you doing, bud? What are you doing? What are you doing there, bud? Guys, hold on a second. What are you doing, bud? Alright, sorry about that. There was a guy walking on the trail up here, and his black lab came over here to say hello. But where was I? You know, when I came down here, I was a total loser. And I had brought all these things upon myself through my own choices. I never viewed myself as a victim, because victimhood perpetuates victimhood. And I think that's the one thing that saved me. Because honestly, I would most likely be in prison or perhaps even dead today. You know, I had a very negative self-image when I moved down here. Years I'd engaged in criminality, been in and out of jail. Was lucky to never make it to prison because I was careful about things, but still, you lead that life. Sooner or later, you're gonna get locked up. But you know, I had a very negative self-image. And it took time to have a good one. It took time to alter my self-perception. I was very lucky to get out of that life. But I recognized too, you know, the peril that I was in. I was always aware of that. You know, you put your soul at hazard, I believe, during those times. Or there's the potential for it, at least. A lot of people that get into that life end up completely broken, devastated, and their life becomes a black hole. You know, I was able to transfigure my life. Things are, I don't want to brag, but my life right now is better than it's ever been. I've got a daughter that I'm expecting to be here any minute, any day. We're actually 4 days past her due date. Just a few minutes from the house in case I get the call. Life is better than ever, you know, and my relationship with my family is greater than ever. You know, I distanced myself from my family. I even had conflict with them during the years of meth, especially my father, because he would try to point out to me the error of my ways, but I was too strung out and too arrogant to make a change. But and I would get so angry with him because deep down I knew that he was right. I think that's why I could get so angry at times. You know, there was a belief. There was a belief. You have to have belief. You have to believe in yourself. Now, of course, a belief in oneself without substance is what I would consider arrogance. I don't consider arrogance to be a very positive character trait for a person. But let me read something to you real quick that I had bookmarked here. A couple of posts, actually. This is a post on Telegram. I'll put a link to the two channels. The first one is from Soul Nation. And the second one is from Esoteric Dixie Dharma. He is one of my friends, and he has some very interesting ideas. But first, from Soul Nation. I'm a big proponent of unreasonable, illogical beliefs. Some think I'm insane for this hardcore adherence to belief and choose the best results of your reality. But I know that having this mentality gives you the highest chance for everything to go right. And when so many are addicted to total negativity, then this perspective has a powerful effect on their circumstances, even if logically they don't all happen instantly. The power of your thoughts dictates your experience of life. Believe that you are literally impervious to mental or physical illness. This is something I believe that has helped me before. I don't get sick very often because I do not project myself as a sickly person. I do not have that self-perception. Even when I was at my most unhealthiest, you could say, during the years of meth, I rarely got sick. Very rarely. Going back to it, believe that every time you even move, you become more shredded and muscular. Believe that you effortlessly attract money with every play you make. Believe that the food you eat is being utilized for your every caloric need with no waste. Believe that every breath you take is supersaturating every part of your body with pure oxygen. Believe that no environmental toxin can impact your innate bodily health. Give yourself the best chance by forcibly overriding your internal programming to believe that the best result will occur. And then whatever happens, happens. The power of a rational belief is the golden armor that protects against negative forces that seek to drag your mentality down. Demonic forces try to hook into negativity to take you away from the path of ascension. The greatest tool of the devil is discouragement. If one person thinks things will go right and another logically thinks they will go wrong, who will win in the end? Who will have a happier experience of life? Who will contribute more to their community? So you better believe it. This is the basis of leading an exceptional life. This is also the basis of living a radically healthy one. If you constantly believe that everything in this life will affect you negatively, the chances that it will harm you increase. You are the architect of your life design. So why not make the design an outrageously positive and beneficial one? Who the fuck cares if it's not reasonable or logical? Guess what? Life isn't either. Believe the universe is constantly conspiring in your favor, willing you to win. Believe that everything that happens is always the best possible outcome. Why does the placebo effect work? Because we believe it. And so if you believe these things, the reality of your life is around. I'm not saying it's logical or that it makes sense from a scientific standpoint, but I am saying that it gives you the best possible outcomes for what does happen in this life. And you might as well put your best foot forward. And then from my friend Esoteric Dixie Dharma, there's a reason faith is foundational for every spiritual path. If you don't believe it, it will work. Let me rephrase that. If you don't believe it will work, then it won't. If you don't believe you can do it, then you can't. Now, let me put this back in my pocket here. Now, faith is the spiritual foundation. You must have faith in yourself, and it's not something that can be easily gained. You may go through periods of trial and error. Myself, I have went through many periods of trial and error. And you know what? I don't look back upon the years of meth with any sort of regret. None at all. In fact, I'm appreciative of those years, because during those years I learned many things. I learned how to operate in that world. I learned many valuable lessons. And without those years, I would not have attained this sort of belief, this conviction, in that I am the master of my own fate, and that I am the architect of my own life. And you know, we should all strive for this. We should all strive to improve ourselves, and we should apply the concept of Kalokagathia in our own lives. And to close out this video, I'm going to quote Louis Bean in his favorite speech. I know I've gushed over this speech for months. I've played it in a few videos, but at the end of it, he said that if we are judged by our present day actions and habits and thoughts, we don't deserve the blood that we carry in our veins, because it came from much better men than ourselves. Now that's the bad news. The good news is you don't have to be that way. In fact, it's not in you to be that way. The opposite is in you. You can be brave. You can be beautiful. You can be strong, and you can win. I think that's about it. I just wanted to give y'all something a little positive today, because I know some of the material on this channel can be quite negative sometimes. You know, my friend Billy Bob's put it before. The lotus flower. If you look what the lotus flower grows out of the muck, what literally looks like shit, but look what grows out of it. The beautiful lotus flower once it blooms. That is the judge. That is the guidelines. That is the standard of a superior form of sheer will, defiance, and determination. Is to take the negative and transfigure it into something positive. Thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye.